What if the greatest minds in the history of human civilization, the philosophers, the prophets, the poets, the thinkers, had all been gathered into a single room? What if you could sit with Confucius and Marcus Aurelius, with Buddha and Socrates, with Pascal and Emerson, all at once, and hear what they collectively believed about how a human being should live? What if someone spent the last 15 years of their life, the final chapter of an extraordinary existence, doing exactly that? Reading everything, gathering the wisest words ever spoken or written by the greatest minds humanity has produced, translating them, arranging them, and organizing them into a single daily companion, one page for every day of the year, so that anyone, anywhere, could begin each morning with the distilled wisdom of thousands of years of human thought. That person was Leo Tolstoy, one of the greatest writers who ever lived, and that book is a calendar of wisdom. Welcome to Book Essence, where we unlock the essence of every book so you get the wisdom without spending weeks reading. Today we are breaking down A Calendar of Wisdom by Leo Tolstoy, the book its author considered the most important work of his life, more important than War and Peace, more important than Anna Karenina, a book that was suppressed for nearly a century and has only recently received the recognition it deserves. Let us unlock it. Before we can talk about the wisdom inside A Calendar of Wisdom, we need to understand what this book actually is, because it is unlike almost anything else ever written. Tolstoy began working on this book in 1902, when he was already in his mid-70s. He had written War and Peace, he had written Anna Karenina, he was already considered by many to be the greatest novelist who ever lived, and yet he believed that the most important work of his entire life was still ahead of him. He spent the next 15 years, the final 15 years of his life, reading voraciously across every tradition, every culture, every century of human thought. He read the ancient Chinese philosophers, he read the Stoics of Greece and Rome, he read the Hindu scriptures, he read the Christian mystics, he read the Islamic poets, he read the modern philosophers of his own era, and from everything he read, he selected, translated, arranged, and sometimes lightly adapted the passages that contained, in his judgment, the purest and most universally applicable wisdom. He organized these passages by theme and by day, creating a daily reading for every single day of the year. The result is not a book you read once, it is a book you live with, returning to it each morning, finding that the same passage means something different at different moments in your life. Tolstoy considered it his greatest gift to humanity. The Soviet government suppressed it for nearly a century because the wisdom it contained was too universal, too spiritual, too fundamentally human to serve a political agenda. That suppression alone tells you something important about how powerful this book is. One of the most consistent themes running through every page of A Calendar of Wisdom is the relationship between the inner life and the outer life, between what happens inside a person and what they create in the world around them. Tolstoy, drawing from thinkers across every tradition, returns again and again to a single conviction. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. The quality of your thoughts, their honesty, their clarity, their orientation toward truth determines the quality of your actions, and the quality of your actions determines the quality of your life and the lives of everyone you touch. This is not mysticism, it is the most practical observation that the wisest people in history consistently arrived at independently of each other. Confucius said it, Marcus Aurelius said it, the authors of the Upanishads said it, the Christian mystics said it, Tolstoy himself said it repeatedly across different traditions. The work of becoming a good person, the work of examining your thoughts, disciplining your impulses, orienting your mind toward truth and service, is not separate from the work of building a good life. It is the work. Everything else, the actions, the achievements, the relationships, the legacy, flows from the quality of the interior life. neglect the interior, and no amount of external achievement will produce genuine fulfillment. Attend to the interior, and the exterior tends over time to take care of itself. If there is a single word that appears more consistently than any other across the 365 entries of a calendar of wisdom, that word is love. But not love as the modern world most commonly understands it, not romantic love, not the love of particular people for particular other people, but love as a fundamental orientation, a way of moving through the world, a decision made, renewed, and practiced in every interaction, every thought, every moment of every day. Tolstoy draws from the Sermon on the Mount, from Buddhist compassion, from Stoic duty, from Confucian benevolence, and finds in all of them the essential claim: the human being who orients their life toward love, toward genuine care for others, toward service, toward generosity, and compassion is not a sacrifice. It is the wisest possible investment a human being can make. The life oriented toward love is not a diminished life, it is the fullest possible life, the one that generates the deepest satisfaction, the most durable meaning, the most genuine connection. Tolstoy quotes the philosopher Pascal, "All the evil in the world comes from people not knowing how to be alone with themselves." And he connects this directly to the capacity for love. The person who cannot be at peace with their own interior will seek peace outside, in distraction, in status, in control over others. The person who has found genuine peace inside has something real to give, and giving it is not a cost, it is a pleasure. The second great theme that pulses through every section of a calendar of wisdom is truth, and specifically the relationship between truth and courage. Tolstoy understood, from his own life as much as from his reading, that truth is almost never comfortable. The truth about yourself, your motives, your weaknesses, your self-deceptions, is almost always uncomfortable to examine directly. The truth about the world, about injustice, about suffering, about the gap between how things are and how they should be, is almost always painful to face clearly. And yet, every tradition represented in a calendar of wisdom agrees on this point with extraordinary consistency. The refusal to face truth, however uncomfortable, always costs more in the long run than facing it. Self-deception is the most expensive habit a human being can maintain, because the person who deceives themselves makes decisions based on a false map, and a false map, no matter how comforting, leads you away from where you actually want to go. Tolstoy quotes Epictetus, "It is impossible for a person to learn what they think they already know, and this is the practical consequence of living in self-deception. You cannot grow in directions you refuse to honestly examine. You cannot improve the things you are not willing to see clearly. You cannot build a life on truth while protecting yourself from the truths that are most relevant. The daily practice of honesty, with yourself above all, is not a spiritual luxury. It is the foundation of everything that actually works." Tolstoy was in his 70s when he began A Calendar of Wisdom, and the awareness of mortality that accompanied that stage of life permeates the book in a way that is not morbid, but profoundly clarifying. He returns repeatedly across many traditions and many voices to the relationship between the awareness of death and the quality of life. The Stoics called it memento mori, remember that you will die, not as a counsel of despair, but as the sharpest possible tool for cutting away everything that does not actually matter. When you hold the awareness of mortality clearly, not as an abstract fact, but as a lived, felt reality, the priorities that actually matter become immediately obvious. The argument you've been avoiding having, the apology you've been postponing, the work you've been deferring until conditions are more perfect, the relationship you've been taking for granted, all of it becomes suddenly vividly urgent in the most positive sense of that word. Not anxious urgency, not panicked urgency, but the clear, calm urgency of a person who understands that this moment, this specific, irreplaceable moment, will not return. Tolstoy draws from the Buddhist tradition. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. And he connects this, as he connects almost everything, to the practice of love. The person who is fully present in this moment can love fully in this moment, and that, across every tradition represented in this extraordinary book, is as close to the purpose of life as the wisest human beings have ever been able to articulate. A Calendar of Wisdom is a book unlike almost any other you will ever encounter, because it is designed not to be read once and set aside, but to be lived with across years and decades. Tolstoy's intention was precise: 1 entry per day, read in the morning before the noise of the day begins, before the demands of work and obligation crowd out the interior life. A few sentences from Confucius, a paragraph from Marcus Aurelius, a reflection from a Sufi poet, a line from the Sermon on the Mount. Not to be analyzed, not to be debated, simply to be held, carried into the day as a kind of orientation. A reminder, before the day begins, of what actually matters. The genius of this format is that it accommodates the reality of how wisdom actually works. Wisdom is not absorbed once, it is absorbed repeatedly, at different moments in your life, from different angles, when you are ready to receive it in ways you were not ready before. The same passage that meant little to you at 20 may stop you completely at 40, because you have lived enough to understand what it is actually saying. This is why Tolstoy considered this book more important than his novels. His novels could move you, enlighten you, change how you see the world in a single reading. A Calendar of Wisdom was designed to do something no single reading can accomplish. It was designed to accompany a life, to be the daily companion of a person committed to living as thoughtfully, as honestly, as lovingly as they possibly can. And that, Tolstoy believed, is the most important thing any book can do. Let us bring together the greatest lessons from A Calendar of Wisdom by Leo Tolstoy. 1. The outer world reflects the inner world. The quality of your thoughts and intentions determines the quality of your life. The work of the interior is not separate from the work of living well. It is the work. 2. Love is a practice, not a feeling. The orientation of a life toward genuine care, toward service, generosity, and compassion is not a sacrifice. It is the wisest investment a human being can make. 3. Truth requires courage. Self-deception is the most expensive habit you can maintain. The refusal to see yourself and your life clearly always costs more than honest examination. 4. Honesty is the foundation of growth. You cannot improve what you will not examine. You cannot build on truth while protecting yourself from it. 5. Mortality is a clarifier. The awareness that your time is finite, held clearly and calmly, cuts through everything that does not matter and reveals everything that does. 6. Wisdom is not absorbed once. It is absorbed repeatedly, across different moments, different ages, different circumstances. The book worth reading once is useful. The book worth living with across decades is transformative. Leo Tolstoy spent the final 15 years of his remarkable life building this book, believing it was more important than anything else he had ever written. That belief was not false modesty. It was the judgment of a person who had spent a lifetime thinking carefully about what actually matters, and who concluded at the end that the distilled wisdom of the greatest minds in history, placed in the hands of ordinary people one day at a time, was the greatest contribution he could make to humanity. He was probably right. That is the essence of A Calendar of Wisdom, and that is what we do here at Book Essence. We take the world's most powerful books and unlock their wisdom so you can carry the best of human thought into the life you are living right now. If this video brought you value, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who begins each day searching for something worth thinking about. Every week on Book Essence, a new book, a new lesson, a new chance to grow. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and keep unlocking your essence. See you in the next one.